Welcome once again to Questions That Matter, a series where we at TrustBridge discuss the research that we have been conducting. Alternate dispute resolution mechanisms have not really made good the promise that they were introduced with, and people seem very dissatisfied with their performance. One of the many inefficiencies which has been built into the arbitration ecosystem has been the high fee that is charged by arbitrators. While the scale of the problem is difficult to discern due to lack of empirical evidence, we do know that it is on the minds of policymakers given the attention that it has received in various law commission reports. Today, I am joined by my colleague Prashant, who wrote an article which discusses the evolution of policy approaches on fee regulation. Welcome, Prashant.
Thanks, Chitrakshi.
Yeah, so my first question would be regarding your article, which points out that fee regulation alone is not enough to solve all the inefficiencies associated with ad hoc arbitration. Could you please elaborate on why this fee regulation approach, the current fee regulation approach, which is encapsulated in the fourth schedule, has proven inadequate?
Fourth schedule was supposed to bring some order to the chaos of arbitration fees, but it's really fallen short. It doesn't address the core problem at all. To begin with, let me point out that it's not even mandatory for all arbitrations, especially for arbitrations run by retired judges that are appointed by the courts as ad hoc arbitrators. They may choose to entirely ignore fourth schedule. Um, and uh, uh, and there is no proper enforcement mechanism to keep them in check. Secondly, there is conflict of interest. So the judges who are supposed to enforce the fee caps, they will eventually go on to become arbitrators themselves once they retire. So why would they push for lower fees? Even otherwise, for current judges, it's tricky for them to enforce fee caps against their seniors. Those retired judges have been their seniors at some point in time, and also they are well respected in the profession. And judiciary being a very hierarchical profession, this becomes tricky for current judges to, go against the status quo. So it seems that this entire system then ends up protecting the interest of a small circle of retired judges rather than pushing for or making arbitration efficient and affordable. Third, fee structure itself is a problem. So fourth schedule is tied to quantum of the claim. But there are other factors as well, for example, complexity of the dispute. So we may have a small claim which requires cross-examination, evidence, and so the process would be a bit more complex. As compared to a large claim, a huge claim, that is simple and probably easier to resolve. But fourth schedule doesn't take into account other factors, so factors other than claim quantum, and that does not make sense. Fourth, it doesn't address the structural issue, which is the judicial control. So instead of reducing judicial control in the arbitration sector, fourth schedule ends up empowering the judges to devise, rules related to fee caps, and the same the same group of retired judges end up having more influence. So in this manner, it actually reinforces more judicial control and oversight. So what we see here is that instead of bringing in more or opening up arbitration sector to more competition and real market discipline, fourth schedule actually ends up having more judicial oversight and involvement. And so instead of moving away from ad hoc arbitration to a more institutional approach, it's rather tinkering at the edges.
Your article ends with a call to initiate evidence-based reforms rather than the current reliance on assumption-driven ones. So what, according to you, is the empirical research needed to shed light on the arbitration ecosystem that can really enhance our understanding of how incentives work?
Great question. So the real problem has been that most of the reforms so far have been driven by assumptions rather than actual hard evidence. So we hear a lot of people say that arbitration fee is too high. Uh, and sure, I mean, there is enough anecdotes and case studies to suggest that it is a serious problem. But what we are missing is a proper data-driven comparative study that compares various arbitration models. So what we actually need is an empirical research that compares or that would actually look at different arbitration setups, like comparing ad hoc arbitration, court-appointed ad hoc arbitrations versus institutional arbitration. And we would be able to then see, does institutional arbitration offer better value of money, for example, or for certain type of cases, does ad hoc arbitration work just fine? Without that kind of evidence or without that kind of study, we are just guessing. Right? So when people say that arbitration fee is too high, we need to really find out if it is too high, why is it high, and then what factors contribute to high fee. And then fee is not the only issue, right? We also want to look at quality. We want to compare speed, and we want to look at party satisfaction, for which we would need to then look at factors such as enforcement rate, appeal rate, timelines, outcomes, and even perception of fairness, right? So we need, this kind of a study. We need this kind of data to be able to make smarter policy choices. Basically, we need to stop relying on guesswork and actually do the research. Because otherwise, we would be coming up with solutions that look good in theory, but don't really solve the problem.
Thank you so much for that conversation. It has been really useful for me to learn the direction in which research on arbitration can go. And if you found this useful too, and you want to keep receiving these updates, please do like and subscribe to our videos. Thank you.